Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we're going to talk about the fastest killing SMG in Battlefield 6 to this date. So we're talking about Season 1 weapons. And to be honest, with all the weapons in the game, I would say you have a wide range of weapons that you can pick from. But when it comes to meta weapons, you're not going to be able to ignore the SCW-10, also known as the APC-10. This weapon is really special in a way. And although you might take a look at the in-game stats and say, well, this weapon is completely mediocre, there's one specific thing that actually makes this weapon a lot different compared to any other SMG in the game. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about why this SMG is the fastest killing SMG. We're going to take a look at these stats, TTK and everything. And finally, I'm going to give you the best setup possible for this weapon for both multiplayer and REDSEC. If you're coming from REDSEC, I got to tell you, this weapon is a beast in REDSEC as well. While in multiplayer, this thing shreds. The same thing applies for REDSEC. It is one of the best weapons in extreme close ranges when it comes to the Battle Royale. So just keep in mind to go down in the comment section, let me know what you think about the video and the weapon, and what do you generally think about the SMGs in Battlefield 6. And do make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel, because that is really good for the algorithm. When it comes to the SCW-10, basically everything about this weapon looks completely average. When you take a look at the fire rate, you have weapons with more fire rate, simply the P90, the SGX, you've got the KV9. There are so many weapons with higher fire rate. The SCW-10 also has the slowest reload speed, and for 20 rounds per mag, I gotta tell you, that is just ridiculous, right? You might say that the P90 is actually slower. Well, that's correct, but the P90 is a 50 round per mag weapon. Okay, and on the other hand, it has one of the slowest muzzle velocities in the entire SMG category. So what actually makes this weapon so good when everything about it is mediocre, average at best? Well, the key factor here is the damage model of this thing. Okay, this thing is a 3-shot kill in extreme close ranges. And just think about it. How fast would a weapon be when you can 3-shot people with 800 rounds per minute? And because of that, the SCW-10 is probably the only SMG that you can't actually beat in extreme close ranges. And I'm not joking, there are weapons that come close to this thing when it comes to TTK, but nothing actually beats it. Previously, I made a video basically ranking every single SMG in the game based on their TTK. And that video, by the way, pops up right on the top right corner. Make sure to check that out if you want to see that after watching this one. Even in that video, the fastest killing SMG was the SCW-10. The TTK on this thing in under 35 meters is 250 milliseconds. And that is by far the fastest killing SMG in the game. To let you know exactly how powerful this thing is, let's take a look at this website here. By the way, I'm going to put the link to this website down in the description. You can go ahead and take a look at weapon stats, TTK, everything you want about any weapon in the game. And it's not even sponsored. It's just a good tool that I use every single day, and it helps me a lot to make these videos. This is the damage model of the SCW-10. As you can see, in under 10 meters, you're going to deal 33.4 damage. That means your bullets to kill are only 3. And that leaves you with a TTK of 150 milliseconds, which is just incredibly fast. You have no idea how fast this is until you actually come across someone and they just absolutely demolish you in the blink of an eye. In 10 to 20 meters, this weapon actually does 25 damage, and that is the base damage for almost all of the SMGs, almost all of them, because we have some SMGs that deal less damage. And from 20 to 35 meters, this thing still does 20 damage, and it's a 5 BTK weapon. From 35 to 75 meters, you're going to deal 16.7 damage, and anything above 75 meters, you're going to deal 14.3 damage. So you might say this weapon is a fast killing weapon, and it's going to shred people in close range, but it's not going to be a viable option for long range, right? Well, that's just not correct, because I'm telling you, this is probably one of the best SMGs in long range. Believe me, I've played with the SGX, with the MP5. I know the MP5 is actually a really stable weapon when it comes to recoil, but the recoil is easily manageable, and you can basically go ahead and reach out to distances with a little bit of practice and some tap firing. And when it comes to it, the SCW-10 is another laser when it comes to an SMG, because almost all of the SMGs in Battlefield 6 are laser beams. So because this weapon is a 3 BTK weapon in under 10 meters, you can basically play like a demon. As you can see in the gameplay, in some of these situations, I wouldn't have survived without this weapon. Like honestly, if I was playing something like the MP7 or the MP5, maybe even the SGX, I would say I wouldn't be able to survive all of that. So the weapon actually enables you to play as aggressively as possible and actually stay alive, because your opponents will have to fire more rounds to be able to actually take you down, while you only need 3. Now the interesting part of this video is the actual weapon setup. So let's go ahead and take a look at how I play this weapon and what's the philosophy, the mindset behind how I actually customize this weapon to its full potential. Alright, so this is the SCW-10. Let's take a look at the setup, and I'm going to start with the magazines first, because this weapon, by default, has only 15 rounds per mag, which is, well, ridiculous when it comes to it. You can at best take out 2 enemies with this, and then you're going to be out of ammo. So what I'm going to do with this weapon is I'm going to use the 20 round magazine. Now you also have a 25 round magazine, but in my opinion, that is just ridiculous to use, because that's going to take 45 points. Okay, so you don't want to invest that much into weapon magazines for only 5 more rounds. So we're going to stick with the 20 round magazine, and we're going to start with this because this magazine alone will cost you 20 points. So now that the magazine is out of the equation, let's talk about the grip. What I like to use on this weapon, because the recoil is, again, manageable, is the folding stubby. I personally use this thing on almost all of my SMGs, and it works really well. It will give you just enough recoil control, and it will also decrease your ADS time. As you can see, the ADS time on this thing is something around 133 milliseconds. If you actually struggle with the recoil, you can go ahead and use the ribbed vertical as well. This will give you just a little bit more recoil control, but in my opinion, you don't really need to go all the way to use a 6-64 vertical. Okay, don't do that. If you're really struggling with the recoil, ribbed vertical, and if you're okay, the folding stubby, in my opinion, is your best option. You also have the slim angled here. You can go ahead and use that as well, but again, in my opinion, your safest bet and your all-day use folding stubby has to be your go-to option here. Then for barrels, by default, you actually have the basic barrel. However, you can go ahead and use the light one or the extended one, okay? I personally find this weapon to be viable at medium to long range. So for those medium to long range shots, I really want to have just a little bit more muzzle velocity, given the fact that this weapon actually has one of the slowest muzzle velocities among all the SMGs. So I just want to increase that just a little bit more to have an easier time tracking people at medium to long range, okay? So the extended barrel is my favorite barrel here. For your muzzle attachment, you're going to go ahead and stick to a 20-point suppressor. This is the standard suppressor. It's going to give you all the benefits for stealth when it comes to using suppressors in Battlefield 6. And do make sure to keep in mind that for now, in Season 1, using suppressors is the #1 thing you should do on almost every single weapon you play. I would say even shotguns need the suppressor. That's how bad the situation is, because as soon as you stop playing with the suppressor, you kind of feel like everybody in the map actually knows where you are, and that's not something you really want, okay? So unfortunately, because this is not how weapon attachments should work in any FPS game, but using a suppressor right now in Battlefield 6 is a must. So go ahead and use the standard suppressor, and then we're left with only 10 points. Those 10 points will go to your green laser, okay? The 10-point green laser has to be here as well, because you just need some more hipfire accuracy. Now, if I compare this weapon to other weapons in its category, for example, let me take a look at my SGX here, okay? The hipfire on the SGX is 62 here. And the reason for that is I didn't have to use any extra magazine on this. This is a 30 round per mag weapon as it is. I'm saving points for my lasers here. However, for the SCW-10, things are different because we just invested 20 points in our 20 round magazine, okay? So because of that, the only option you have here is your green laser to just make that hipfire accuracy a little bit better. By the way, for carbines and assault rifles, the baseline hipfire, in my opinion, is 54. So anything below 54 actually will not work. Not like you can't get kills hipfiring, but it's not going to be a viable asset, okay? So 54 is your baseline, and that is achievable on the SCW-10 using a 10-point green laser. I almost always use standard ammunition on my carbines, SMGs, and assault rifles. Same goes here as well. And finally, your weapon sight is personal preference. My favorite red dot is the mini flex 1x, and I believe you should go ahead and stick to something like that. I would say anything above 1.5x when it comes to magnification is a waste of time on this weapon. Yes, you can reach out to distant targets as well, but in my opinion, that is easily achievable with a red dot, okay? You don't need to put like a 2x, 3x scope on an SMG. So just don't do that. Stick to a red dot, to something more viable at close range, because close range is where this weapon is actually king. This setup will also be viable in REDSEC, especially if you're coming from REDSEC. You probably know when you pick this weapon up from the ground, even the basic version, like the factory stock version of this thing, is actually really strong in REDSEC. So go ahead and use this setup and let me know down in the comment section what you think about this after playing it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope this video was helpful, somewhat informative. I will be making a video on the best carbines in the game as well. We're going to rank them by their TTK as soon as possible. I'm also going to have a weapons tier list, especially when we have all the weapons right now for Season 1. I'm going to make a tier list based on my experience for all the weapons in Battlefield 6, and that video is actually coming out really soon. So do make sure to stay tuned to the channel, and until next time, guys, stay cool.